So what's the story of Meyer July? You may wonder how he got that name. Well, I'm not going to give it away because you'll discover it the moment that you enter the exhibition. But Meyer was born in 1916. He was born 1 year earlier than Charlotte Solomon. They were virtually the same age, and they grew up in the same interwar year period, she in Germany and he in Poland. But in 1934, he emigrated. She did not. And he lived to be 93, and she lived to be 26. She was an artist from the start, educated from a well-to-do family. But Meyer claimed that he couldn't paint. He never learned how. He apprenticed to an electrician, he apprenticed to a cobbler, he worked in a sweatshop, he painted houses, and he ended up running a wallpaper and paint store. But in 1967, I began to interview him. And at the time, I was interviewing him about his immigration experiences. And I was interested in what did he remember about the old country, why did he leave, which was for economic reasons, and what were the stories that he told about immigration and about life in the New World. But I kept on interviewing him. 1967, 77, 87, 97, 2007, 40 years of interviews. And as I interviewed him, it turned out that he remembered an extraordinary amount about growing up in Poland between the wars. And he remembered so much because of the very, very special way he engaged with the world. He was interested in how the world worked. In 1990, after 10 years of begging and pleading with him to paint what he could remember, because I knew that his memory was so visual, he finally picked up a brush and began to paint. And in those years, 1990 to 2009, in 19 years, he produced about 300 paintings and many, 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 many drawings. And what is so extraordinary, and it is an affirmation of something I believe very deeply, and that's the capacity of ordinary people to be very creative, what I call the extraordinary ordinary, and to see the value in memory. But memory needs its muse. Memory needs somebody who will listen and who will be interested. And that was the nature of our conversation, the nature of our relationship. And there's another principle that I believe and that I think that Meyer exemplifies, and that's the capacity for creativity well into old age until the very, very day he died. And that capacity for creativity, I think, is really, really affirmed in what you will see. And so, memory of a lost world, a world lost to time, a world lost to dislocation, to immigration, and a world lost to destruction, to the Holocaust. Now, Charlotte, she was young, and she was introspective. It's very personal, her dreams, her feelings, her inner thoughts. Meyer, he lived to be very, very old, and to be what I call extrospective. If you asked him how he felt, he was silent, and he was rarely silent. But if you asked him how to bridle a horse, how to make a shoe, how to make a brush, how to make a tin whistle, or a willow shofar, you couldn't stop him. In the most minute detail, he was a truly extraordinary, ordinary person with 7 years of public school, the same number of years in Cheder, and a working life. But he had a way of engaging the world, an insatiable curiosity, an interest in how things worked that is critical to his ability to remember. Literally, the town in which he lived, Opatów, in Poland, in central Poland, that town became a memory palace. By remembering in his mind's eye, by walking down the streets, he could remember who lived there, which shops were there. By thinking about the shoemaker making a shoe, he could recall every single step. And the show that you will see this evening, and hopefully many people will see, which is, of course, our good wish, is really an example of what I would call world making. The invocation and the recreation of a total world as remembered by somebody who engaged it fully and who remembered it after leaving it in 1934. And he was spared the direct experience of the Holocaust, of the trauma, although we lost many, many of our family. And what that means is that he is able to remember that world without that world being filtered through a personal experience of the trauma. And that is not something that Charlotta Solomon lived to see. Thank you.